Currently, there are 5 Nocturnal Arms available in Hades 2's early access, and each of them has multiple aspects which you can use to customize the weapon to suit your playstyle. After that, you'll add on some boons and Daedalus upgrades to create your build each and every run. Now, the goal with each weapon is to create something unique. The axe feels very, very different from the staff, which also feels extremely different from the skull. So you might not like all the weapons. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the Umbral Flames. All the rest are pretty good. I started liking the Sister Blades and the rest have been slowly growing on me ever since. So today I'm going to be talking about my experiences using the various weapons and their aspects in Hades 2, along with going over some of the basics like how you unlock weapon aspects in the first place. That said, there are only 5 weapons currently in the game, and Hades 2 is still in early access. Supergiant Games has already said they're going to add more, and so when they do, there's a good chance I'll be updating this video. And the best thing you can do to prepare is get subscribed, that way you won't miss the update. Oh, and leave a like while you're down there if you find this helpful. For now, let's get into things. At the start, you'll only have one of the Nocturnal Arms available, the Witch's Staff, but over time, you're going to find the materials that you need to unlock all the others. After you do, you'll gain access to the incantation Aspects of Night and Darkness. This is the recipe that allows you to add weapon aspects. It costs 5 bronze and 1 nightshade. If you need to know where to get bronze, well, I have a dedicated video for that, but it's in the city of Ephyra and you'll need a pickaxe equipped. Once you do, return to the Silver Pool to access the aspects of a Nocturnal Arms. Each weapon has an aspect of Melinoe, which reflects her own personal style using it, similar to aspect of Zagreus from the first game's Infernal Arms. Then, the staff has aspects of Circe and Momus. The Sister Blades have Artemis and Pan. The Twin Flames have the aspect of Moros and the aspect of Eos, which, by the way, the aspect of Eos is particularly difficult to unlock. The axe has the aspects of Charon and Thanatos. Yep, Than's back, kind of sort of in axe form. And then the skull has aspect of Medea and aspect of Persephone. You'll need a variety of resources from all of the zones within the game to unlock all the aspects here. Then to enhance them, aspect of Melinoe requires some of the resources that you'll be gathering out in the world, but then the other aspects require a special resource that you get basically from this game's equivalent of the Pact of Punishment. The new system in Hades 2 is the Testament. What you'll do is increase the fear level of each run, defeat a certain boss with a certain weapon, and they'll drop a nightmare. You can use this to then enhance one of the weapon aspects. Now, as a quick note, where possible, I am going to be showing unenhanced versions of the aspects so you get an idea of a baseline effect. There's a couple exceptions because I enhanced them up early and kind of forgot to record things. And so with the basics of unlocking weapons and their aspects out of the way, let's get into some individual weapons and their movesets plus aspects. So first up, you begin with a Witch's Staff Descura. This is already unlocked from the start of the game, and it's a very beginner-friendly weapon due to the combos being really, really easy to use. Your regular attack and special have pretty limited AoE, but you can use the Omega moves to unleash devastation over a wide area. Now, because it's a well-balanced weapon, it's suitable for a wide variety of builds. The attack is a simple strike combo in front of you, with the Omega attack being a linear strike with magic blasting out from the staff in 2 directions. The special, on the other hand, is a ranged strike that can deal damage to enemies. If you hold it down, you get a projectile that explodes, dealing damage in a small area. And the dash strike is you bonk someone. It's nothing to write home about, nor is it bad. Now, because Descura is the most balanced weapon, it's really hard for me to make boon recommendations here. Things like Apollo is nice for increasing your area of effect, and you can absolutely build into things like Hestia if you're building around the special. But from my own personal experience, I've found that I tend to only build into either the attack or the special within a given run, meaning I'm going to be using the other for something a little more utility focused, such as grabbing a boon of Demeter or Hera, allowing me to apply freeze and hitch respectively. Or alternatively, not really casting my attack at all if I'm a special focus build, but grabbing a Hephaestus boon so that when I do, it triggers a blast dealing extra damage. Now, there are currently 3 aspects for Descura: Melinoe, Circe, and Momus. The gameplay you're going to see is a run that I did with aspect of Momus. As it turns out, that has prodigious damage output. Aspect of Melinoe causes you to channel your Omega moves faster. This is nice quality of life, but certainly not super impactful if you're not going to be building around Omega spam. Make sure to get your magic recovery up. Then aspect of Circe, after landing 21 attacks or specials, you gain Serenity for up to 10 seconds. During Serenity, your Omega moves are faster and you rapidly restore magic. So this is basically a magic spam build in a bottle. I also don't think this is the most powerful aspect though. The one I've had by far the most success with is Aspect of Momus, where you have no more than 50% life, absorb your Omega Special Blast to restore 5 life. Seems pretty cool, healing when you're below half life, but also here's the catch, your Special and Omega Special gain up to 30 power, which causes them to do absolutely massive damage, especially if you get anything that allows you to fire more projectiles. My first Aspect of Momus run was actually my first win against Oros, the second boss of the overworld area. She's quite tough, and I had double moonshot. I didn't actually have either a high-level Aspect of Momus nor optimal boons here, but I still found the damage output to be absolutely incredible. In addition to high damage output, there's also a lot of safety here. I can just sit back and blast enemies with spells from a distance. So if you like the ranged playstyle, I can wholeheartedly recommend investing into the Aspect of Momus. Next up we have the Sister Blades, Lim and Oros. They cost 1 silver to unlock. Now because the attack's very close range, I've heard pretty mixed feelings about these. Personally, I really like them, especially because the dash strike positions you behind enemies, allowing you to backstab and dodge their stuff, but I can also see why some people don't. The attack is a basic flurry combo ending in a wider ranging strike, with the Omega attack being a charged version of that that's simply the wider strike that also jumps you forwards. I quite like the dash strike because again, it allows you to teleport behind stuff to backstab them. In the special, you throw a dagger or charge up a Fan of Knives. The Fan of Knives can shotgun at close range, and trust me, there's a lot of builds built to maximize that. So in terms of boons, you can very easily stack Hestia's Scorch rapidly with either the attack or the special, and you could also do a lot of pretty nasty things by going point blank range and grabbing a boon from Aphrodite. On the other hand, if I'm using the special as a ranged interrupt, I like taking either Demeter or Poseidon. Demeter to freeze the foe so I can move in for the kill, and Poseidon to cause the nice splash damage and also interrupt them easily. In terms of aspects, you have the Aspect of Melanoe, where your attacks and specials deal up to 40% more damage when striking foes from behind. This is very powerful, especially if you're able to get other things that allow you to capitalize off of that backstab damage. Then you have the Aspect of Artemis. While you channel your Omega attack, you occasionally parry and riposte, and you get faster Omega attack channel, which I really like to love it, but I'm not very good at it. So right now, I don't love that one. But then last up you have Aspect of Pan. Your specials seek foes in your cast, and you fire up to 5 more blades after you channel. This is very much a stomp build that can absolutely wreck stuff. It kind of reminds me of Aspect of Chiron on the bow from the original game. If you grab a few things that increase the number of knives you fire from an Omega special, you will send an absolute cloud of destruction at your enemies. Oh, and by the way, you can also use hook knives so that they then return, backstabbing the unfortunate foe. Personally, I've had the most success with aspects of Melanoe and Pan, while I tend to fail epically with Artemis. That said, if you are a parry god, I could see you having quite a lot of success with that one as well. In the current footage you're seeing, I was actually an aspect of Melanoe, but I got hook knives, so I kind of turned into a special spam build, because as it turns out, being able to get up close, point blank stuff, and have the knives scythe through them twice means that you deal absolutely massive damage and completely destroy your foes. Then we have my least favorite weapon, Ygnium the Umbral Flames. You spend 3 silver and 3 cinders, again from fighting Hecate, to unlock this. I find it really difficult to use because of a low single target damage. The special is powerful, but also slow to fire, which gives enemies an opportunity to strike you before they're interrupted. So, the moveset works really differently from any other weapon. Normally on a weapon, the default combo is pretty smooth, but then you hold specifically to charge the Omega version. On the Umbral Flames, the default attack combo is really clunky, and you hold to continually and smoothly fire projectiles, meaning you're kind of always a channel build, even if you don't want to be a channel build. This is probably why it feels so awkward to me. And the special causes projectiles to spiral out from your location. This is awesome, and if you could execute it just a little bit faster by default, I would be super happy with it. The Omega special, on the other hand, is a persistent version of that, where flames whirl around your character, burning foes they come in contact with. So personally, I've been heavily reliant on Demeter here, just so that I can freeze enemies, but that said, I can also see Apollo being really good to get extra AoE, especially on your special. You want to invest in boons to bolster your single target damage wherever possible. This could mean adding flat damage, such as from a Zeus boon, or massively increasing the damage via something like an Aphrodite boon. Remember, your single target damage is absolutely going to struggle, but in general the weapons do have pretty good coverage. Luckily, there are some things, such as giving plus 50 power to your special via a Daedalus upgrade, in exchange for the projectile no longer piercing through enemies but instead disappearing, which can give you a few options, but if you don't get them, my personal experience is that the wands do feel pretty bad. Now when it comes to weapon aspects, we've got 3 of them. Aspect of Melanoe, where flames from your Omega special burn for up to 2.5 seconds longer. I like this one a lot, and that's where most of my playtime is. Then you have Aspect of Moros. Your attacks linger for 6 seconds and explode in a blast if struck by your specials. With up to 60% blast damage, in theory it's really nice. In practice, it's really hard for me to both have the attacks be near enemies and also hit them with a special in time to do anything relevant. This could very well be just because I'm bad with the wands, though. And Aspect of Eos, your attacks grow bigger and stronger over 4 seconds, then return to you when you sprint. They get up to 80% more damage when full grown. So this is the version that I find to be a lot easier to use. That said, the footage you're seeing is Aspect of Melanoe because that's my most played aspect on this weapon. If you are going to go for Aspect of Eos, basically you fire a bunch of stuff, then you sprint in the opposite direction, all your projectiles rip straight through the enemy and completely destroy them. It is a very effective way to deal with less mobile foes. Unfortunately, on some of the more mobile bosses, I find it just tends to miss a lot, which is really unfortunate. Then we have Zorephet the Moonstone Axe, which you pay 15 silver to unlock. If you're good with its special, a defensive shield that blocks most attacks, you will absolutely dominate everything in your path. So its moveset begins with a fairly slow series of slashes. This makes up the attack, but these things hit very hard. So you can either go with the make the hard thing hit even harder by grabbing a boon like, let's just say Aphrodite, or you can go with take the hard-hitting thing and give it bigger AoE from Apollo. On the other hand, the Omega version is a whirlwind, so you can easily stack up Scorch from Hestia as well, or go with any sort of multi-hit combos. If you're looking for something to apply Hitch from Hera to pretty much everything on the screen, this is also a good option too. Now for the special, you channel a defensive shield that blocks attacks from a single direction, then end in an overhead strike from the axe. Unfortunately, there is a small window of opportunity between when you finish channeling the shield and when your overhead strike goes off that does leave you vulnerable. But because the overhead axe strike projects forwards, creating an overlapping circle of destruction, it's pretty easy to stand from a safe distance, block some sort of ranged projectile, and retaliate without issue. A lot of the time, you're going to be accidentally charging up your special if you're just using it normally. The special itself is also quite good because it hits rapidly and has some anti-armor properties. My personal favorite build is to use the Psychic Whirlwind Daedalus Hammer, that allows you to use your attack and special during the Omega special, so I'm just spinning to win while also blocking all of the enemy attacks. It's really awesome, but that's not the footage you're seeing right now. The footage you're seeing right now is actually an aspect of Charon Run. So, let's go over the aspects quickly. Aspect of Melanoe, you recover up to 25% faster after using your attacks and specials. This very much smooths the gameplay out and makes it quick and efficient to attack foes. Aspect of Charon, on the other hand, your cast lasts plus 3 seconds and erupts just like if you had cast the Omega version when struck by the Omega special. You also get up to 30% cleave cast size and damage. Honestly, I've had the most success here just playing this as a cast build, grabbing something like the Hestia cast, like I'm doing in this footage, and dropping it to scorch enemies for an extremely long duration. The whole channel up your Omega special to detonate your cast thing, it's fine, but it's also pretty clunky. And so just dropping the cast and having plus 3 duration is still a massive bonus. Plus this means you don't have to invest too much into the aspect and you can try it out and get a lot of the benefits. Then last up, aspect of Thanatos. Whenever you hit with Omega moves, gain 1% crit chance until you take damage. Maximum of 20. This is kind of win more, but you can also just charge up an Omega attack, spin to win and get that nice crit bonus, then absolutely destroy stuff. It works really, really well for Psychic Whirlwind builds, by the way. I like this because it rewards you for playing skillfully, and since you do have access to a special that blocks almost every attack in the game, there's a couple things that are unblockable and some ground effects you also can't block because, it's beneath your feet. Well, it's a really effective way to avoid taking damage. Zorephet's definitely the sort of weapon that at first I wasn't entirely sure, but it's absolutely grown on me and is rapidly competing as one of my favorites. Then last but not least, we have the Argent Skull Revaal, for which you need 2 glass rock and 1 bronze. These materials are a pain in the ass to get. You have the glass rock in the 3rd zone, the fields, and it's pretty darn rare. Most of my runs I don't even see it. Then to get the bronze, you have to go to the city of Ephira, which requires a pretty significant amount of progression as you have to undo the ward blocking the way. And probably also make sure that Melanoe doesn't instantly die after entering that area. Now, the Argent Skull is basically the adamant rail plus the shield from the original Hades. In other words, its attack uses an ammo system where you get 3 attacks, then you need to collect the skulls to recharge. Your special is a shield charge, and it's really, really fun. The entire thing is a mobile hit and run build. So when you're attacking with a skull, you fire them out, and then they drop down and you collect them. The Omega version of this is you fire a skull up into the air that then slams down, dealing damage in an AoE. This is great because a lot of the other skull moves are pretty single target unless charged up. Think of this as regular is single target-ish, Omega is AoE fest. The Venom special doesn't require any ammo, you can charge around as much as you want, it's great for collecting your skulls, and you can full charge it to fire a bunch of side projectiles. My favorite version of this is Twisting Crash, which causes them then to return. And it was in fact a Twisting Crash build on the skull that got me my first win against Chronos. In addition, the skull's Omega special destroys enemy projectiles and protects you from damage during the charge. Be very careful though, the non-Omega version does not protect you from damage during the charge. And also, it doesn't protect you right after, so if you come to a stop in a bad place, you're absolutely still going to take damage. But in a lot of ways, you can think of this as a better dash that costs 20 mana. So now, let's take a minute to look over the aspects. First up, aspect of Melanoe. Your attacks have more power for each shell fired and not yet retrieved. So basically, if you can get some extra ammo from a Daedalus upgrade, something like Bolstered Array that gives you +2 shells, and leave a couple of the skulls on the ground, you get up to +20 power per spent shell. Now personally, I've had a lot of fun with this aspect, and the ratio that I find to be the best is to leave 2 shells on the ground and keep 3 for continually looping into enemies. You kind of just have to fire them at something that's off in the middle of nowhere so that they don't get collected for a little bit. And after that, I tend to pair that with some sort of close range effect, such as Aphrodite. The next up, the aspect that you'll see in the gameplay footage, Medea. Your attack stays within reach, i.e. you just hold the skull, and then it explodes on impact with an enemy, i.e. when you charge into them, or after 3 seconds. And aspect of Medea is really, really fun, but also it's really easy to get yourself killed because you're literally loading things up and then charging directly into the enemy's face to explode your fist of skulls. It does give you a very significant attack and special damage bonus though. And so aspect of Medea gets the would absolutely blow myself up while trying to hit Chronos in the face out of 10. And then you have aspect of Persephone, where damage you deal generates glory, which enhances your Omega special. You get some special damage, and glory makes your Omega special last for up to 5 seconds, continually firing while you have control. So those side projectiles are just going and going and going. I found this one really, really hard to use right now. If you have something like a Poseidon boon where you can slam enemies into walls and really control their location, then it works pretty well. But aside of that, I haven't had too much success with it. Instead, I've had a lot more success with aspect of Melanoe and aspect of Medea. In fact, aspect of Medea either goes really, really well or absolutely catastrophically. Then aspect of Melanoe tends to be a lot safer, tends to be more tactical, and is one of the best way to take down a scary boss since you can keep your distance, throw out some shells, they'll naturally kind of fall down during the fight. And when you go in to collect them, you're pretty darn safe, especially if you have enough magic regen to rely on your Omega special. And so that's some information about all 5 of the weapons available in the Hades 2 Early Access currently, some of my thoughts on each of the weapons and their aspects, potential build synergies and ideas, and whether I like them or not. To leave things off, here are 3 that I've found a lot of success with. Number 1, Descura, the Witch's Staff with aspect of Momus, because it has prodigious single target damage. Number 2, the Sister Blades with aspect of Pan. You get to go all unlimited blade works on your enemies and fill them with knives. This is also a pretty safe thing because you can drop your cast on an enemy from a distance, then safely pincushion them without ever having to get into melee range. Just remember it is a little bit of a magic intensive playstyle. Then last up, the aspect of Melanoe on the Argent Skull, because it offers a really good mix of high mobility and range that's honestly exactly what I always wanted from the Adamant Rail. With that said, I'm still going to be playing around with various weapons and trying them all out, so if you want to see me make a weapon aspect tier list, let me know down below. And also, let me know what your favorite weapon is. For me, it's changed a lot as I've played. It started with the Sister Blades, now I'm leaning towards Argent Skull, but I could see the Moonstone Axe edging it out in the long run. So be sure to leave some of those thoughts down below. Now, if you're wondering, how do I get bronze to unlock this stuff? I have a video on that, and I also have a complete beginner's guide going over the game and its major systems. Links to both of those will be up in the card and down below. With that said, I'd like to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members for the continued support. For as low as $1 a month, you can help make videos just like this one possible. That's it. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. I hope you learned something from this weapon showcase, and I'll see you in the next one.